Hi, everybody. Jason here from Murideo. In today's episode of the webcast, I have my friend Ariel Marcus from MSolutions. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite products, and that is the MSTest Pro. And we wanted to get with you guys because there are some optional modules for the main unit, and there have been some upgrades to those optional modules. And we want to talk about that stuff today and show you guys the web interface and what's new and all the cool new tests you can run. Hi, Ariel. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Jason?
I'm great. Thank you so much for meeting with us today. This has been a very successful product for us so far. So I really enjoyed talking about it, and I'm very excited to see the new features and the new tests myself. And I'm sure everybody out there who already has these will be excited to see the new stuff as well. So thank you so much for joining me today.
So thank you for having me.
Of course.
And as you mentioned, a lot of changes, a lot of new features, a lot of implementation throughout the MSTest Pro since it was first introduced in 2017. And today, I think we will start with the HDMI cable tester. We will show the functionalities.
Yes.
And how we are doing the test. I think that's the most important part, to understand how MSolution is doing the testing comparing to other testers that are definitely necessary, but this is a different approach. This is a different approach for HDMI.
Okay, good. So for this session, let's concentrate. I like your idea. Let's concentrate on the HDMI cable test, and then we'll do another video later with the DC resistance module. I think that's a good plan.
Okay. So first of all, let me introduce. This is what you're seeing in front of you now is the web interface for the HCT. HCT is actually the HDMI cable tester. The purpose of this module that is plugged into the MSTest Pro is to test HDMI cables, passive one, not the active one, and provide you information about the bandwidth that can be supported by the particular cable that you're using. So I will be able to show you also the interface of the touchscreen, as you will see it with your devices. Let me just switch at least one of the screens for you.
And just real quick, while Ariel's getting that sorted out, just to let everybody know that the MSTest Pro does have a web GUI. So as long as the MSTest Pro is on the same network as the computer you're using, you can type in the IP address of the MSTest Pro into a search browser, whichever one you like, it doesn't matter. And we'll be able to see the interface as if we were holding the unit in our hands, which is really nice because there might be some situations where the main unit has to be plugged into something that's in a rack, and you're testing something on the other side of the property or the house or whatnot. So I find this is a very, very handy tool. And a lot of times what I find myself doing, and I'm sure Ariel, you'll back me up on this, but I like to use my smartphone. You know, I type in the IP address, I pull up the web GUI, and I can use the MSTest Pro as if I had it in my hand. Meanwhile, it's in a rack somewhere on the other side of the building. So this is what the web interface looks like. This is very cool.
Exactly. And this is connecting me to some new features that are available on the tester, like sending emails and sending reports and sending information.
Very cool.
Using an email directly from the tester to your email. So what you're seeing now, again, this is the desktop of the web interface. You just need the IP that you can extract from the tester itself. And this is what you will get as the landing page. On the landing page, you can see here at the bottom, you can see HDBaseT certification tutorial. You can see how to test HDBaseT cables, and you can see how to test HDMI cables. Means on the tester, while you're doing the testing in the field, you can see those videos and you can learn or remind yourself how to do the testing of each one of the modules that is available on the tester. And that's, I think, very important part. It's available on the touchscreen UI. What you're seeing now is exactly the touchscreen UI which is available. You can see here, there is under the file sessions, you have the user manuals If you click on it, you can see, no, this is the HCT report, but you can see the different manuals that are available, and you will be able to see also those videos that are available here. You can see it down here. So
And
this is exactly the user manual, which is available on the tool itself to support you with all the tests that you're doing. Let's start with the HDMI cable tester information. The
just to remind,
uniqueness of
oh, sorry, Ariel, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want to remind everybody, while you're playing those videos on the main unit, to hear the videos, there is a headphone jack, a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on the unit. So if you are out there in the field and you just want to take a quick peek or review one of those videos, just make sure you plug your headphones in and listen away.
Exactly. Good reminding for me also. So the uniqueness of the testing from MSolutions is that we're testing the physical layer of the cables. We would like to test the wiring inside the HDMI cables, and based on that to provide the information of what is the quality of the cable. We're not testing for patterns. We're not testing for different bandwidths or things like that. We are actually focusing on the physical layer. It's the same approach, by the way, that is being taken today with the category cable for the Ethernet and based installation. Up until recently, with the low frequency of the Ethernet, most of the tests were based on pattern, which is very good. But when we are increasing the bandwidth and we are going higher with the frequencies, then we start to see also the DC resistance of the category cable. Same approach is here. With HDMI, we started with a 720 and even less, 480, and then we moved to a full HD and a 4K with a 300 megapixel clock rate, and now we move to HD to a 4K resolution with an HDR, which is 600, and we're moving higher to 8K resolution. All of those require higher bandwidth and higher frequencies from your HDMI cables. Not all the cables will be able to carry the signal. The difference between testing the physical layer and testing the pattern is that with pattern, on a long term, it's very difficult to understand how many errors are being captured over time. When we're checking the physical layer, we're able to understand exactly the propagation of the signal throughout the cable. So what we're seeing here are two levels of testing. One is compatibility, which will indicate you directly, and in a second we will see a demo of it, will indicate exactly how the signal will propagate throughout the line and what will be the maximum resolution that can be supported. And the second one is a sweep test. Sweep test means that we will see exactly which wires are present inside the cable, which wires are shorted inside the cable, and believe me, there are different shorts that are implemented inside the cable, and which one are exactly according to the HDMI spec. It's very important to say today that with the latest spec of the HDMI actually removed the length limitations from the HDMI cable. Why they did it? Because if you will just create the optimal cable with the best wire that you can achieve, they don't have a problem that it will run for 20 or 30 or 100 meters. But the moment that you are reducing the quality of the wiring, then you need to go to a lower measurements of length inside the cable. So let's start, you know what? Let's start with the easiest test. The easiest test is the sweep. Running it for about 6, 7, 8 seconds will provide us with information about the wires itself. What we can see here are all the wires of the HDMI cable, including the cable shields. Why it's important? Many of the providers will tell you our HDMI cable has a shield on the surface of the cable. Now that's very good as long as they have it. Now the second thing that we're seeing here is the orange one. Orange one means that we have shorted wires. What does it mean, shorted wires? If we look at the structure of the HDMI, we can see that there are twisted pair on a differential one, and the shield which is going across those lines. This is a good example. TMDS2 of the video. This is the signal that actually carry video on the HDMI cable. This is the positive line, this is the negative line, and this is the shield that goes with them all across from side to side. Why it's important? It's important because this is a differential line in order to reduce the immunity from the outside and interfere with the signal quality. And it goes with the shield as a reference to recover the signal back on the remote side. When we send it from source to the sync device, we need to recover it in this way or another by the receiver. So this shield is going with them. What we are seeing here is that actually all the shield lines in this specific cable are shorted. You can see shield of TMDS2 connected to shield of TMDS1, 0, and also the clock of the TMDS. This is good, but it also can be a problem. You can see here also that the shield is shorted to the GND signal, which is running across the cable. This is not the shield of the cable. This is a real GND line. It's a wire going inside according to the spec. It's provide a reference for the DDC, for the HDCP signals of communication, and it provide also as a reference for the 5-volt and HPD, hot plug detect, on the HDMI. So it's very important that this wire will be very clean without any noise. In this situation, you can see that all 4 of them are shorted to the GND, but they are not shorted to the shield. This can indicate that this can behave good with one condition, that it doesn't get any noise from the power supplies here on the GND or any other interference, because the problem can appear if you have a problem with the HPD signal. The transaction might also flow up the GND and can interfere with the TMDS signal. This can create a video drop. So it is good, it is bad. There are situations, this, by the way, will limit you with frequencies. The moment that the clock frequency will increase to high frequencies, I will expect that the noise from the clock will be injected to the GND here. Because you need to understand, all of those are actually floating power supplies. So there are pros and cons for each type of methodology that is being implemented. And we at MSolutions, we are trying to do the analysis based on this physical layer and understanding the quality of the wiring. There are several cables that you will see also, those shield and GND also shorted to the cable shields, and we're seeing a lot of cables like that. Those cables will suffer from immunity from the outside. Noise that will be captured on the cable shield will be injected directly to the TMDS lines. Whether you want it or not, it will happen. It will create video drops. And by the way, when we're talking about HD-based, for example, most of the time from our experience, the failures are not coming from the HD-based itself. It comes from the HDMI on both ends. If you have from the source to the HD-based transmitter an HDMI cable that bring the signal with certain level of error rate on the HDMI, the HD-Base-T will not be able to carry. And while it will transmit it from transmitter to receiver, you will get video drop. So understanding your HDMI quality is very, very important. If there will be some missing wire, and we're seeing with the, mainly today we're not seeing it, but on old HDMI cable from previous specs, we're seeing missing wires like the CEC wire or the reserved one because they were not used, they were removed from the cable. So if you try to work with CEC and you don't have the wire, you actually don't have the CEC. So again, important to understand it.
Ariel, I have a question for you on the previous test that we just looked at, the sweep test. Let's run it again here. If I ran this test, let's say I'm an installer and I'm in the field and I'm testing my cables. The results that we got here, would you consider replacing this cable, or do you think it's going to be good enough, or should you probably just replace it to be safe? What do you think?
Okay, based on this by itself, it will not tell us a lot. We will know that, okay, there is this type of implementation. The moment that we will move to the compatibility, we will see exactly if this cable can fit what we need. For example, I expect that this type of cable for 4K, it will not work. It will not be suitable for a long run on a 4K resolution. Why?
Okay.
Because of the shielding.
Right.
Because of the shielding, because of the quality of the wirings, we will see problem with it. And this is exactly leading us to the next test. With your permission, I will move, or you have additional questions.
I do want to take just one small step back, just in case there are folks out there who are watching who have never used the tool before. The physical configuration of the tool and the module. So right now, and if you have one handy to show, that's good. But if not, it's okay. So the HDMI test module is currently in the MSTest Pro, and on the other end of the HDMI cable is the looper module, right?
Yep, exactly. The looper module is a small one. You can see here, it has two inputs. One will fit the DC resistance and the other one for HDMI. It's a passive unit, means it needs to be on the remote side, no power supply needs to apply or something like that. The module itself, by the way, you can see here, it's a module with an HDMI output only. And it's important to understand. So in several times I've seen that it was connected, the HDMI was connected directly to a source device or to a sinks device in order to do the testing. There is no need. The test is done on the cable, on the fly, with no need for source or sync device connected to it, only between those two modules that are available.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Welcome. Let's see the compatibility. As you remember, we have seen shorts on the GND, on the shielding, and all the shielding also shorted.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
So this is the interesting results that we are seeing. 8K on this type of cable will not work. It will fail. 4K, as I mentioned to you also, the 4K with an HDR, which is 18 gig, will not pass also because of what we have seen. But if we're using it to the common 4K resolution that we have today, which is the 4K 30 or 4K 60 420, this one will work. It will work and it will work fine. Full HD, no need to say, no problem with it. Shorted HDMI wire. So we detected that the TMDS2 shield is shorted to the TMDS1, TMDS0, TMDS clock, and it is shorted to the GND. So this is the information about the cable. This actually defines the what we see as the maximum rating for this particular cable. It's very difficult to accept it today, but believe me, from experience, these are the results that you would like to see the moment that you are moving to the higher resolution. 4K 6444, we are talking about 600 megapixel. We are talking about 18 gig bandwidth. And we're going with the 8K, we're talking about 48 gig. 48 gig on an HDMI cable, the cable needs to be really, really good in order to pass the signal. Now, additional unique implementation for this HDMI cable testing, what we provide is a certification for this particular cable. In order to do the certification, you need to run both tests on the cable. The test itself, as you can see here, this is a live demo. You can see it will take about 10 seconds. At the end of this, you will be able to create a PDF file that will show the results of the cable. It will show more than that. It will show the parameters. If I save the report, you can put information about the location of the cable, location of the installation, and everything that you need to identify the installation that you're doing. Pressing the save is creating a PDF file. This PDF file, you will be able to submit it directly from the tester. You can see the download report. If I'll press, by the way, you can see here that the results are exactly as we've seen on the compatibility test at the beginning. And the sweep test, it passed. It passed because there is no regulation from the HDMI side that will say you cannot short those wires. But you need to understand that they are shorted. And still it passed. If I press the download report, we can see here different tests. The last one was created now. You can see here icons of synchronization to the cloud. This is something I think, Jason, we will do a complete separate session to understand the interface of the tester to the cloud and how it can support installers and companies in testing their systems. Let's see. This one, you can email it directly from your system. You enter the email address, send it. You need to make sure that you are connected to the network, either by a wired LAN cable or through Wi-Fi. The moment that you press the send, you send the email, or you can download it. If you're working with the web interface, you can download it to your local system and open it. We will see it now. This is the certification report. We can see that it was passing it was failing the 48 gig, the 18 gig, and it passing the 10.2 and 4.45. This is the full HD and the 4K 30, 4K 60 also. Information about the shorted HDMI wires. We're not saying it is fail or it is pass, but we provide it as an information. And the sweep test. Sweep test, we provide it as pass fail. If there are wires that are missing, it will be a fail because HDMI defines all the wire. Additional information is actually the resistance of the wires inside the particular HDMI cable. We're seeing those in units of ohm, and this is for the cable length that we have. Those are certainly the thresholds for each one of the bandwidth that will allow the signal to pass. We're seeing it now that the measured value, and you can see between the lines, it's actually, this cable is very, very balanced in terms of resistance for the wiring, but it's still higher than the thresholds here. Now, some will say, listen, this is 1.04 comparing to 0.975. This is true, but still, you need to understand those short cables, those tiny wires are carrying high frequency signals. So it is a small difference from what we are seeing in the numbers, but it creates a lot of difference when we're passing the signal through
Sure.
this specific wire. So this is
Eric,
very important to understand. Yeah.
is if you scroll back down to the individual pins, where we have red, so 0.82 it looks like, and then on 18 gigs 0.975 it looks like. Of course it will be red if it's a fail, but I'm just curious too, what number should we be sort of aiming for? Is it less than 1.0 or what would you
Yes.
say?
Yes. If you want the cable to pass a 48 gig through this particular cable, and it's not an active cable, very important to
Mhm.
understand, active cables are not being measured here because you cannot measure them. Actually, you're converting the signal either to fiber or whatever in order to pass it. We're talking about copper cables. The
Right.
moment that you will be below 0.82, you will be able to pass a 48 gig. And this is based on a lot of experiments that were done inside our lab. And this is something that we're aiming as a patent pending now in the US,
Oh,
because
nice.
these measurements are showing you the quality of the cable.
Right.
We have a lot of demand from it for this particular tester and module from China, because there is a problem to test the 8K and the 4K 444.
Sure.
We've seen a lot of cables that when you're doing a pattern test, it is passing. It is passing because on the different generators and pattern generators are using different HDMI transmitter and receiver on the
Uh-huh.
other side, because you're doing sort of a loop between the on the cable. Now, when you are transmitting, most of the time, the different vendors of HDMI transmitters would like to have it with the best quality. So they are providing sort of a gain to the signal in order to drive it with a better quality. Same thing for recovery is implemented on HDMI receivers. The receiver would like to get the worst type of cable to be able to recover the signal in the best way with different algorithms so that it can provide you the best image. Now, those two are actually different with every transmitter and every receiver of HDMI. There are no two that will be the same.
Sure.
So if you are from one side improving the driving of the signal out, and on receiving you are implementing a unique algorithms to recover the signal, you're actually sort of hiding the artifacts that are being created inside the cable.
Sure.
Now, it is good, but you need to understand that the pattern generators are not, for example, a display. Samsung, LG, whoever is manufacturing different displays will use a different chipset for HDMI receiver.
Sure.
And then the errors are flowing and you're seeing the problems with your eyes. You are seeing like dots, or you can see drops or things
Right.
like that. So
It's
going to those numbers shows you exactly the thresholds. Yes, Jay.
I love how you guys have designed this to be very simple for somebody to look at. I mean, I call it the traffic light. So you have green, yellow, red. And also too, if you scroll up just a little bit more on the report, it'll actually show you like a small diagram of the module and connected to the looper, like up at the top of the page you have there. So I just
Yes.
love this because everything you need to know is right here on the report. Which module to use the looper, pass fail on certain bandwidths. I just love that you don't have to be an engineer level, you don't have to be an engineer to run these tests and to read the results. So I've always applauded you guys on making it very simple.
The main idea is that, and I really believe that installers and integrators, they don't have time while doing the installation during the working day. They don't have time to do the analysis by themselves and to start thinking, listen, this is here and this is there. Is this is good or bad? We would like to provide them, a pass-fail information. Later
simple.
on, if they would like to do an analysis, no problem with that. They can take it offline. They can look exactly what is the problem, how we can fix it. There is also an option maybe to fix it. If you are an HDMI manufacturer, you can take the cable after you're seeing them. You can feedback to the factory once again, guys. These are the thresholds. These are the levels. So it's very important. And once again, you can use those information to provide it to your customer as a reference for the installation. How you do a sign off. You're applying hundreds of cables in different sites. How you provide sort of a warranty to your work to understand that somebody will not replace the cable that you installed for HDMI because he thought that, and all of us are familiar with that you're installing a boardroom and everything is working, and one time somebody thought that something is not working and he replaced the cable. Why? Because he can. That's it. That's it. And when the problem starts, you know exactly, you can take the report, you know exactly what cable you had, you know exactly how it performed, you know exactly to compare it to what you have at the moment, and you have a best way to show and explain what is the status. Once again, yes,
I was just going to say I love how thorough it is, because I've seen this with some integrators, some customers of ours, where maybe they're doing a large job like a school, and every single wire has been tested for signal integrity, has been tested for DC resistance, which we'll talk about on a separate video. And on top of that, you're also testing every single HDMI cable. So every cable in that system has been tested and proven to pass the test. So at the end of the job, when you're doing the walkthrough or whatnot, and maybe commissioning the system, you end up with a stack of paperwork. And I've seen integrators before, they'll put the paperwork in a binder. So at the end of the job, they have this binder full of paperwork, and you can say, here's this binder with all this paperwork in here that shows us that every single cable in the system passes. So I love the way that you can use this information to be very organized, to kind of keep track of all the cables and to make sure that they're all good. I love that approach.
Yeah, that's the main idea behind what we're doing. To provide a simple information on a basic level to show exactly what the status is.
Sure.
As I said, by the way, this is something that I will highlight, and we will talk. We will take it also to a third session. We're currently working on the same implementation, by the way, for USB-C cables.
Oh, very nice.
Today there is a big problem for USB-C. You don't know which cables are fully compliant with USB-C with power or without power, which one are USB 3 and which one are USB 2. And there is a lot of confusion inside of the USB world. And with the moment that we're going more with the VC rooms, video conferencing, and we're connecting USB devices more and more, you need something. And this is something that in ISC, I expect to present it for the first time. It will be a USB-C cable tester on the physical layer. Once again, showing the physical layer, and everyone who has the MSTest Pro from Murideo or from MSolutions will be able to buy only those modules and to upgrade his system in a way that he will be able to test USB cable. It will not be just USB-C. It will be able to test also USB 3 and USB 2. But again, we're attacking the physical layer rather than going with the bandwidth.
Right.
So this is, something to remember that on ISE we will present it.
That's great. I always, oh, sorry, I was just, I always recommend, because it only takes a few seconds, I always tell people run both tests. That will give you the complete story about that cable. If you don't run both tests, you might, I should say, have some issues later down the line. So for the few extra seconds it takes, always run both tests.
Yes, and if you want to generate the PDF file, you must run both of them.
You have to do both. Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, it will not provide you the ability to save those PDF files.
Right. Good.
Inside setting, by the way, you will be able to put your email address and everything so that when you send the email, it will be received under your name to the desired destination that you are transmitting these emails with the report and with all the files that you have. That's it. I think that we've covered most of the things with the HDMI, with the HCT cable, HDMI cable tester. Very important part that most of us are mistakenly thinking that HDMI cables are here for 20 years. I don't know how long they are here, but still, the technology of HDMI is improving. The bandwidths are getting higher. And yes, you need to start testing HDMI cables to know that they fit your requirement. And this is exactly what we're doing on MSolutions with the MSTest Pro.
Very good. I love the information, Ariel. The new features look very cool. Again, I love how there's been a few times where a dealer has been having a problem, and I'll show up on site with the tester. And sometimes it's so simple. You plug the module in that you want to test with. In this case, maybe it's the HDMI, but sometimes within minutes, maybe even less, why the system is failing or why that TV over there keeps flashing or has no picture. So when I show up on site to help a dealer with a troubleshooting call, a lot of times they'll tell me that they've been dealing with this for 1 day, 2 days, a week, whatever, and and they don't know what to do, and I don't blame them. I'm guilty of this just as anybody else, but they just start randomly swapping things, and they still have the problem. And it turns out they never tested the category cable, or they never tested the HDMI cable. Maybe the HDMI cable was brand new out of the box, so they figured it was okay, and in some cases it's not. So I love the test. I love the simplicity of it, and thank you guys for making it simple. I totally understand how hard it is to make something this simple. So I very much appreciate what you guys are doing here. And on another note too, I just wanted to mention one other thing. Since the HDMI cable test is so thorough, showing you down to the pin or the wire inside the cable what might be wrong, I can see this as being a tool not only for installers, but maybe you're an HDMI cable manufacturer and you want to see this level of detail. This would be a great tool to use.
Exactly. Definitely, this is something that is being used by many. I can tell you now, also between the manufacturers. And again, I haven't seen a tool which is doing this type of testing for HDMI cable.
Yeah.
So it's a unique approach that proves itself many times. I can tell you, for HDBaseT users, installers, integrators for those different products of HDBaseT, many times the problems are in the HDMI cables,
Sure.
and not by the HD-based itself. And the problem is that because HD-based is, you know, still we can say 10 years, but it's still a young technology.
Yeah, sure.
It's easy to blame the HD-based. It's easy to blame the HD-based.
Right.
By the way, on the HD-based, we provide now, we added a lot of information about the HDMI transmission, bit error rate, and things like that. We will demo it on a different session, but we provide now, for example, on the transmitter side, what is the bit error rate of the HDMI, so that you will know from the source what is the bit error rate that the HD-based is receiving on the HDMI input before it transmits it over the line. Now,
Right.
the moment you have high bit error rate, but still, you know, it's something in the range which is allowed, then the HD-based will be able to compensate on it. But the moment that it is too high and you don't know, you will see video drops on the HD-based, which
Right.
are definitely not an HD-based. If you knew how to test the HDMI cable and to replace it, you don't need to touch the infrastructure of the HD-based cables or the LAN
Exactly.
cables, because the problem is in a small cable coming from the source to the HD-based transmitter, and that's it.
Right.
And
Right.
it's important to remember. Those are practical comments from things that I have seen. I've seen that a lot of times.
Very good, very good. Ariel, thank you so much for your time. This is a great upgrade, and I'm sure folks out there are going to take advantage of it. This is just a reminder to everybody. This is an optional module. So if you're new to this and you're thinking about ordering the MSTest Pro, you know, this might be, definitely will be, I should say, a one of the optional modules that you should certainly add to that kit. So Ariel, as far as the HDMI cable test, the module and the test that we looked at today, is there anything else you wanted to add, or?
No, I think we covered all of the things that are related to the HDMI cable tester.
Okay,
And I will be also available. Maybe you can share also my email information for questions
sure.
and things like that. I'll be happy to answer. If somebody
Yeah, that's
needs
fine.
more clarification about it, we can
Hmm.
have a video conference or something like that
Hmm.
in order to clarify all the things and
Okay,
to
good.
explain it more details if needed.
Very good. So you guys hear that straight from Ariel. If you have any questions or you want some additional information about some of these tests, you can email him directly. You guys can always email me, jason@murideo.com. You know, any questions that you might have that I can't answer, then we can certainly forward those off to Ariel and get the questions answered for you. So Ariel, thank you so much. That'll wrap up this session on the HDMI cable test module. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, Jason, and see you on the next session.